How's it going, guys? Nerdy Gamer here, and this is going to be my top 12 favorite Halloween specials and movies. Now, this is actually a video that I've been planning to do for a while, ever since I started doing countdown videos for video games and my top 10 lists and everything. I figured this time I would do a little bit something different other than just making ones about video games. This time it's going to be on Halloween specials. I figured this would be kind of cool for us to kind of go through ones that I really like, that I watch every year on Halloween. Some of films that I watch that are just, I go back to all the time, and just, in my opinion, they're just classics of their own. Now, obviously, I prefer the Christmas specials over Halloween, but I still prefer Halloween specials, and I really like watching them, and it always puts a smile on my face every Halloween I watch them. So, without further ado, let's get on with the video. Number 12, Casper. Now, this is kind of an odd choice to start with this video, but Casper, I would say, is definitely one of those movies that I love fond memories watching, especially during Halloween. It was one of those movies that I would watch when I'm at school or at a family's house or whatever, and after many times watching the movie, it's still a lot of fun to watch. Casper the Friendly Ghost is one of those characters that I actually have a soft spot for, even from other stuff that he's been, for example, Casper Scare School and other films that kind of feature the character in it. But when it comes to this movie I can easily go back and just remember watching it and just really have a good time with it, because it is one of those movies that anybody can really watch. Kids, adults, pretty much every kind of demographic can watch this movie on Halloween and enjoy it. Number 11, Ghostbusters. The first Ghostbusters was a movie that I got into really when I was younger. I had relatives that were big fans of the first Ghostbusters, and that's when I really got into it. Obviously, I wasn't born in the 80s, I was born way before this movie came out, but when I got to try to watch the movie, I really got into the first Ghostbusters. Obviously, we don't talk about the second one, which that's a whole other story. I know a lot of people don't like the second one. I thought the second movie was okay for the most part. It's definitely not something that I would talk about a lot, since obviously the first one's way better. I have seen Afterlife, and I thought Afterlife was really good. I would say it's probably a better sequel to the first Ghostbusters, and even better than the other live-action movie that came out with Melissa McCarthy, but that's a whole other story. I also have played the video game of Ghostbusters, and I thought the game overall was pretty good. It's definitely one of those games that I would say it's pretty suitable for Ghostbusters, because the game is a lot of fun, especially for co-op and online. But honestly, when it comes to the first Ghostbusters, it's a lot of fun to watch. I love Marshmallow Man. Marshmallow Man in the movie is pretty cool. Everything about this movie, when it comes to just how it is just a lot of fun. I can understand why there's so many people that love Ghostbusters and collect the figures and are just really big fans into it. It is actually a really classic movie. I love watching this movie every Halloween, or even just outside Halloween, because you can watch Ghostbusters outside Halloween. So, honestly, it's a pretty good movie. Number 10, Beetlejuice. Interesting fact about Beetlejuice for me. I actually started watching Beetlejuice a few years ago. No joke, that was when I actually started watching Beetlejuice. I don't know what it is, but back in the day, I never watched this movie. A lot of people have seen this movie and love this movie, but back in the day, I never watched this movie. It may be because I was too young for the movie, maybe my parents just didn't really want me to watch it. I don't know what it is, but I do not remember watching this movie back in the day. But after watching it a few years ago and really enjoying it, it honestly is a really good movie. I love the humor and the fact that it's just a Tim Burton movie. That just really blew me away. I could not believe that it was made by Tim Burton. Honestly, it's a pretty fun movie. Number 9, Hotel Transylvania. Yes, Hotel Transylvania is on this list. I know a lot of people are not big fans of the franchise ever since they started coming out with more sequels. I honestly really enjoy all the movies, and it's kind of the same thing as the Ice Age movies, where over time, there's a few movies that get really good, and all of a sudden they kept saturating it with more sequels after sequels. I mean, I get it, it's a franchise and it makes a lot of money, but even then, sometimes, it's better to just kind of leave it at number 3 and that's it. Hotel Transylvania did have the same treatment, but honestly, I actually really love a lot of the movies. I love the first one, I love the second one, and I even love the third one. I mean, to be honest with you, the movies are pretty good. I know some people are not big fans of it, and people could disagree if they want, but they're just a lot of fun to watch. Even for an animated movie, it's pretty good. Even the first one, which is the one we're talking about. Now, obviously, these movies are directed by Jenny Kotowski, which I'm actually a big fan of his work. I love Dexter's Laboratory, Samurai Jack, Star Wars Clone Wars, which, yes, he does Star Wars series. He also did Primal. I mean, there's so many different things that the guy is really known for, and he does a really good job with Hotel Transylvania. Like, there's so much like fast paced, there's so much like squatch and stretch with the film, and it's just really fun. Like, the cast is just a lot of fun too. Like, I'm a big fan of a lot of the cast that they got for this movie. Honestly, the movie is just a lot of fun. Like, I love watching the first one and even the second one. The second one was pretty good. Third one, not as good as the first two, but it was still enjoyable. Number 4, I agree with people that, yeah, they should have just ended it with number 3, because there was really no need for number 4. Because number 4 was just, it wasn't needed, to be honest with you, and it was just okay. Like, it's not as good as the other movies. But honestly, Hotel Transylvania is definitely a movie that I would probably go back and maybe watch, like, on Halloween, or maybe perhaps even after Halloween, because there are some people that actually watch this movie even when it's not Halloween. But for those who watch it on Halloween, it's a pretty good movie to watch. Number 8, The Simpsons Treehouse of Horror episodes. The Simpsons is a show that I probably agree with people that definitely needs to be canceled at this point, because there are so many seasons of The Simpsons. Like, it has over like 35 seasons, and it's at the point where it just needs to be like done. It needs to just be canceled and just show reruns. Not to say I don't love The Simpsons, because I really love The Simpsons. The original seasons, in my opinion, are probably one of the best out of all the seasons I've had to offer. But when it comes to just like how the show is, it's kind of like how I feel about SpongeBob. Like, I love SpongeBob too, but it's at the point where it needs to just be done, it needs to be canceled, and just show reruns. But when it comes to Treehouse of Horror for The Simpsons, it's probably one of the best episodes that they show every season. The only reason I love these episodes is because there's so many like unexpected things that happen. Like, you never would think like each character would just do like a part or a role in each episode. Like, sometimes there'll be like a serial killer, or like there'll be a mystery, or one of the characters turns into a monster. Like, there's just so many different things they've done. Like, even like some parodies. Like, sometimes they'll parody like certain like different types of like shows or like other forms of media, and it's actually pretty funny how they do it. So honestly, the Treehouse of Horror episodes are probably one of the best things they've actually done for The Simpsons. And yeah, they're not as good as what they were in the originals, but in my opinion, they're just a lot of fun to go back and revisit and even watch them like every Halloween, because they are actually a lot of fun. Like, the Treehouse of Horror episodes are probably one of the best things they've ever done for The Simpsons for sure. Number 7, Goosebumps. Originally, Goosebumps wasn't going to be on this list, and the reason behind it was because I didn't really have a lot of exposure to Goosebumps when I was younger. Yeah, I would watch a little bit of the TV show when it was on YTV. Like, they would show like a couple episodes during Halloween, and sometimes I would watch it just to see what it's like. And same thing with the books. The books, I read a little bit of the books when I was in school, but that was really it. That was the only thing I knew about Goosebumps. But when it came to the movie, when it came out like back in 2015 when I seen it in theaters, I thought it was really good. Like, I actually really loved the idea. I love that the monsters would just come out of the books and they would just appear and they have to go find the monsters and put them back in the book. I thought the idea was actually pretty cool, and it was something different. Because usually a lot of movies, they don't really do that kind of thing. So I thought it was kind of cool. So honestly, this movie, especially with Jack Black, like, Jack Black in my opinion is one of my favorite actors, and he does a really good job of like everything he does. So honestly, for this movie, I really love this movie. I think it would be something that I would watch again on Halloween, and most of the time, it's pretty good. So honestly, I highly recommend it if you really want to watch, like, if you're a fan of Goosebumps, or just really want to watch something for Halloween, like something different. It's definitely a movie I'd recommend to watch. Number 6, Coraline. Coraline was a movie that I had a lot of fond memories watching when I was a kid, especially when I saw it in the theaters. When I saw it in the theaters, when it was on the big screen, I was so horrified. Not because I didn't like the movie, I just remember being so scared shitless of it because of how creepy and dark it was. And now that I'm older, I actually am very fascinated with this movie. Like, the way that the animation is and the stop motion, it's just pretty fascinating to watch. And I even love the premise. It's basically kind of got like an Alice in Wonderland kind of vibe, except it was backwards. Imagine a girl who basically just wants her own way of life and just wants to avoid her parents and just wants to see kind of her own world from her own point of view. It's actually pretty cool how this movie works, and it's really cool. Nowadays, this movie has like a cult following, and there's so much merch now for Coraline, it's crazy. But I understand why. It's actually a really good movie to watch. Even for Halloween, it's a pretty good movie. Number 5, Dracula. There are many Universal Monster movies out there, and I'm sure if you asked a lot of people what their favorite Universal Monster movie is or their favorite character, they would probably give you an answer which ones they like. Out of the ones I like are definitely Dracula. Dracula, the Bela Lugosi Dracula, is literally my favorite out of all the Universal Monsters. For some reason, I just really love this movie. For a black and white movie that came out way before my time, it's such a great movie to watch. And yeah, some people can argue about Dracula Untold, which that was another Dracula movie that came out. Which I gotta say, I love the movie. I wouldn't put this on this list because I don't know. I don't have the same affection as what I do with this movie as opposed to Dracula Untold. But when it comes to like everything other Dracula media, I don't really consider it that either. But when it comes to this movie, I just really love watching this movie. Bela Lugosi, for an actor that played in a lot of movies, this was definitely a role that he was really fit to play because I really love him as Dracula. Other people have kind of played the role of Dracula, but he does it way better than everyone else. So honestly, like this is definitely a movie that I would definitely go back and rewatch every Halloween because it is actually a really good movie. Even if it is a black and white movie and it is an old movie, it's still a lot of fun to watch. Number 4, Corpse Bride. Corpse Bride, in my opinion, is easily a classic to watch on Halloween. I just really love everything Tim Burton does. There are movies sometimes he does make that kind of go over the top, but the movies he really makes are usually like the creepy, dark, weird, and usually obscure movies, and that's kind of why I love him for what he is. I just love everything that he does. And Corpse Bride, on the other hand, is up there as one of his best movies. I just really love this movie. Like the stop motion, the cast, the story, everything with this movie is just fantastic, and it's definitely up there as one of his best movies. Much like what I mentioned with Coraline, this movie has a huge cult following also. There's so much merch that you can easily find anything Corpse Bride. Like there's Funko Pops, there's Loungefly bags, there's stuff you could find at Hot Topic just with Corpse Bride on it. It's just crazy. But again, I understand why this movie has a lot of merch, because it is actually a really good movie. It's definitely one of my favorites, and I love everything about it, this movie. I really hope that one day, if it ever gets a sequel, that I'd be down to watch, because it is actually really good. And it's definitely a movie that I look forward to watch every year on Halloween. Number 3, it's The Great Pumpkin, Charlie Brown. I think it's safe to assume that everyone in their own lifetime has seen It's a Great Pumpkin, Charlie Brown. It's just one of those specials that comes on all the time on TV during Halloween. And I'll be honest, it's definitely one of my favorites. Like, I just really love Charlie Brown as a character, and I always like the Peanuts characters. I always had a soft spot for them from, like, watching their previous specials. Like, the Christmas special especially is one of my favorites. But honestly, it's so popular that it's even had its own cereal, which, no joke, is, like, selling in stores right now and is probably one of the funniest things I've ever seen. I mean, if Rudolph had its own cereal, I'm pretty sure this one could have its own cereal too. But it's just funny to think it finally got a cereal. But honestly, when it comes to the special, it's just really wholesome and it's just very charming. That's why I think a lot of people love this special. It's just one of those specials that you can just watch every year on Halloween and just feel like you're watching it. And especially for people that love the Peanuts characters, it is honestly just very cute and comforting. I just really love watching the special. It's one of those specials I could sit there and just really enjoy it and make it feel like I'm watching a Halloween special. It's just really cute, and honestly, I look forward to watching it every single year on Halloween, no matter how old I get. It's one of those specials I can just go back and watch. Number 2, Scooby-Doo on Zombie Island. Out of all the Scooby-Doo movies out there, Zombie Island is probably my favorite one of everything Scooby-Doo. I just really love Zombie Island. I can watch this movie every year on Halloween, and even outside Halloween. It's just a really good movie, and honestly, it's just a fantastic premise. It's basically Scooby-Doo and the gang are on an island, and they're trying to avoid zombies, and there's a huge mystery about this island. It's just really cool and how they really kind of do it, and the animation is just fantastic. Like, there's really not much I can really say about this movie other than it's just an awesome movie. I have seen the sequel to it, which I'll be honest, I don't think is as good as the original. Even though it's still enjoyable, it's still not as good. But honestly, Zombie Island is a movie that I can really enjoy and just have a good time with it. It's just a really good movie, and honestly, I recommend it if you're a big fan of Scooby-Doo, because it is really good. And my number 1 favorite Halloween movie to watch is Monster House. That's right, Monster House is my favorite movie to watch on Halloween. Now, obviously, a lot of people aren't going to really like the idea to actually put Monster House on here, and people are going to say, yeah, well, why wouldn't you pick the Chucky movies, or Friday 13th, or any of those other movies? Like, those are way better than Monster House. Like, it's just Monster House. What's so good about it? Listen, I love Monster House for a lot of reasons. And the reason I love Monster House is because I have a lot of fond memories with Monster House. And yeah, I love every Halloween special that I put on here on this list, but I just love Monster House the most because, 1, I have a lot of fond memories with it, and 2, there's also a very interesting story about this movie. I remember a long time ago, I watched Monster House when I first came out. I didn't go see it in the theaters, which I was kind of too young to go see it. That's kind of why, like, relatives didn't really take me to go see it, because they thought I'd be kind of too scared for me. But when I watched it, when it was like available for rental, like I think I went and watched it like when Blockbuster had the movie. When I rented it from Blockbuster, that was actually the first time I got to watch it. And after watching it, I completely fell in love with Monster House. I mean, yeah, the house itself is the most scariest fucking thing I've ever seen, but it is just really good. Like, from the references to the lines, from the characters, from just the premise, it's just really interesting, and it's definitely a movie that I recommend anybody to watch. Like, it is so good. Yeah, the CGI, I agree with people that, if you had to compare from like CGI from now to like back in the early 2000s, it doesn't really hold up, but for a movie, it holds up a lot. Like, especially for a movie that you can watch on Halloween. And for people who have never seen it, this could be their good time watching it for the first time. Like, it is just a fantastic movie. From beginning to end, from the way that the premise is, it is just a fantastic movie to watch on Halloween. So I honestly recommend it for anyone.